Welcome to this edition of Good News Today with Bob and Caroline Scott. Good News Today is dedicated to sharing the true love of Jesus Christ through word and testimony. Now, here is Bob and Caroline.
Everybody, welcome to this edition of Good News Today. It's a blessing to have you here joining the program. And Caroline, we have something special in store for the folks at home. And it's amazing how God is moving and how He uses people in different ways. And from pastors to everyday business, and that's really what's been interesting about our guests that are going to be on the show. You met them through enjoying their delicious food, I guess.
I like to eat. I love food, and I love healthy food.
Yes.
And
how rare is it to find a good, healthy restaurant?
Right. Yeah, we were talking about that, and especially in a small town. And anyway, Ben,
our small town, I might add.
Yes, it's in Shelbyville.
Yes.
Ben and Melinda Hardin are with us with
Yes,
Harvest
welcome.
Cafe.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having us.
Yeah, and so I heard about this place, and because I work in Shelbyville, and went, and it was amazing and just so quaint, and I loved it, and so just, that's how it happened.
It's, the only word I can come up for your all's fine establishment is eclectic and delicious.
Yeah.
Actually, two words,
Yeah.
It's the first time I went walking in, Caroline had tried to describe it to me, but it wasn't anything like she
unusual
described.
for someone who
because
has never been in
it
to
really,
understand.
because what she just said, it was like this amazing antique shop.
And we'll talk about that a little bit.
But then wonderful food. I mean, just really good food. And then on top of that, it's organic. And if you don't know what organic is, it's just food that's more natural. It's not processed, and it's just very rare to find.
And it's a very casual setting. It's just real casual, and you see friends there. I mean, every time I go there, it's like a reunion, and
That's the feel we wanted for sure. So that's good to know. That's catching on.
So, and we were talking a little bit before the show. Tell us a little bit about your background. We can either start with the background of Harvest or just kind of your walk with God. And you were telling me that you grew up in Christian school, and you're both from Shelbyville.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your background, just a little bit.
Well,
Make you go first.
Yeah. Well, we grew up in church our whole life, and then I sort of started to chase what I thought was the American dream of corporate America, so I got busy with that pretty early on.
Yeah.
I was in pharmaceutical sales, and I knew really right from the beginning that it was not for me.
Yeah.
But it was I was really appreciative of all of the experience
Very
that I got.
lucrative, yeah.
It is. Well, and it's, you just learn so much from the people that you work
Right.
with. The leadership was super strong. But just, I had a stirring inside of me just to do something a little bit different, but I wasn't sure what it was. And I sure wasn't brave enough to jump ship. I was not healthy myself. I was just a lot of things, like just smoked cigarettes and lived off McDonald's and Doritos and all of that. And then sort of came to my own wellness aha moment and began that journey alongside of working in the sickness industry. I then became well through food myself and just learned a lot about that and sort of worked my way into the opportunity to be able to work in that field. But still, I was scared.
I'm sure.
And you'll hear about Ben's journey, but he's much more of an entrepreneur spirit and really encouraged me to jump ship and just to take a leap of faith. And so we did, and so that gave me the opportunity to shift gears and empower people to take care of their bodies and fitness and food. So that's kind of how we
definitely appreciate that.
Yep.
You went and got your master's.
I got my master's.
Oh, just a little side note. You got your master's degree.
Yeah, so along the way, I would pick up certifications as I could, being in pharma. So I did doula training and Pilates and yoga and personal training, and I teach a boot camp class. And then I would come home from my pharma work and start studying and got a master's in holistic wellness with an emphasis in nutrition. And so my friends would say, I would take them grocery shopping, or I would sort of encourage them or help them or outline a detox for their specific needs. And so there was this nudging by them, you should do this. Like, you love it, you can tell you're passionate about it. And so I started doing it just sort of for my friends. And then just had so much fun doing it that I thought maybe I could make a career out of this, but I'm not sure really how that would work. So when I left pharma for a year, I just did wellness consulting corporately and also personally. And Ben, I talked to Ben for, I feel like a decade, but at least 5 or 6 years about doing a cafe.
Yeah.
I had a little folder,
She did. She had the name picked out.
Harvest Cafe, a little folder.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been a dream of hers for a long time. Not that we have any type of dream of owning a restaurant,
Yeah.
because I'm not sure that
It
either
kinda
one of us really
blossomed.
wanted to do that.
We didn't. Maybe that's why we didn't do it, because we'd get close enough to say, well, should we do it? And then we imagine the lifestyle that we now live.
Yeah.
And you said, I don't want any part of
I don't know
that.
if I want to do that. That sounds crazy. I have recipes in this little folder that I would write one day for harvest.
Wow.
One day for harvest.
Oh, wow.
And so about a year after I left, we had the opportunity to start on a really small scale, which we'll probably go into a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I
a
was
little
wondering
bit.
how your paths crossed. I mean, starting from the beginning with you, and then how it kind of flourished into this. But how?
So for me, living in small town Shelbyville, went to a private school, private Christian school there. Basically first grade all the way up till I graduated, and then ended up going to Asbury College to play basketball.
Great school.
Once I graduated, and it was good, but I needed something else. It almost felt like there was a stirring in my soul to chase after something, but I didn't know what that something was, and I was just kind of restless.
Yeah.
And so ended up transferring to University of Kentucky and going there for a while. And just after just life events, felt like I just needed to get away. And a close friend of mine was going to Oral Roberts out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he said, man, why don't you just get in your car and just come out here? You got a place to stay? Why don't you just come
that
check
age,
it
you
out?
own your car, right?
You can
I
do
had a Honda
anything.
Accord. That thing could drive for days. So I did. I got in the car and drove to Tulsa. It was a 4th of July weekend, and stayed with him in the dorms, and just really loved the people there, the atmosphere there. And so I drove back home and told my parents I was transferring. And
They're
like,
They probably
okay.
said, okay, Ben,
The next
this
one.
is it, no
Yeah.
more. We're going to have to take a break. It never fails. And,
That's really quick.
And that's an amazing thing. The show goes by so fast, but hold that thought, because we're going to come right back, and we want to hear a little bit more about your Oral Roberts experience. And I know how God absolutely moved within that situation. So, folks at home, stay tuned. We shall be right back with more of Good News Today, and you definitely want to hear what Ben has to say. Be right back. Hey, welcome back to Good News Today. Bob and Caroline here with some new friends. And I've been hearing some great testimonies, foundational things as far as how God laid a foundation for you. And before we went to break, Ben, you were sharing, kind of bouncing around. You sound a lot like me when I was in school. I was on the 5.5-year plan.
I'm right there with you.
It took me to get through, and after 3 different schools.
Kindred spirits here,
Yeah. And so you ended up really at a great school, Oral Roberts University.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit more about that and how God used you there, and obviously set a foundation for it.
Right. So after visiting my friend in Tulsa that weekend, driving home, telling my parents I'm transferring schools again, and they're thinking, okay, here we go again. But they were very supportive.
Yeah.
They knew that I needed to basically get away, start fresh, kind of create who I was in God, and really find who I was and find my place.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I was bumping up against, being close to home. And going out there was just a great experience. And I had applied to get into Oral Roberts, and when school had started in August, I still didn't hear anything about being accepted. So I just packed my car, and I just drove.
I love it.
Youth and faith together.
My first stop was the registrar's office.
So you had not been accepted.
Nope.
You just packed and went.
It's
I
a
just
great
packed up.
story.
And it was my senior year. I had already gone to Asbury and the University
You're
of
like,
Kentucky.
this has got to work out.
So you're transferring as a senior on top of everything else. Okay.
Exactly right.
Okay.
So first stop was the registrar's office, and filled out some paperwork and gave them my transcripts, and ended up getting accepted. So that was a good thing.
Good.
Thankfully.
The plan was, though, to live with my buddy who was out there, and he was an RA. that didn't work out. But what did work out was living on a floor of some of the most incredible men that I could have ever met. And they really helped kind of define who I became, who I am now.
God's plan.
You're exactly right. And these guys are now movers and shakers out there doing great things for the ministry. And if they're ever watching, hey guys. But that was just a great experience for me in my life, and God's purpose for what was then just kind of refining me, and then moving back to Kentucky. I graduated with a sports medicine degree and went into medical sales, and again, that just wasn't something that I was excited about. I enjoyed that time, but there was just really something that was just not right, exactly. And Melinda is 3 years older than me.
Did everybody get that?
And,
3 years older.
In high school, she would never date me.
That's true.
Because you were a child.
Well, I mean, it's weird then. I mean,
Yeah.
at 41 and 38, it doesn't matter. But back then, you're like, there's like offenses.
18 and 15, it kind of
Just
just
was,
a little bit
shaky.
Yeah.
So guys out there, there's still hope.
Yes.
If you're
Think of it.
15, you're looking at
So,
that 18-year-old.
we actually lived on the same street when we were little. Our parents were friends, still friends.
So you knew each other then.
Yeah, and so that Honda Accord that he mentioned that drove him to Tulsa, Honda Accords were his thing besides 3-year-older women.
It's a good car.
And he, right? And he comes up to me at church. My family had moved to church where his family was going. He's like, hey, you need to talk to your dad and let me buy his car. I'm like, who's this punk kid? Like, that's my car. Like, I've been high on that since it drove in the driveway the first time. That was probably our first,
1988,
conversation.
Honda Accord. That's awesome.
And so, in high school, we were friends. We, did things together. But it was taboo. You couldn't do that. And so.
But then in college,
So in college.
when he after
college.
post Asbury, pre ORU, there was a slice of time that we spent
Okay.
together a lot.
At University of Kentucky,
Yeah, you can.
And so, the timing just wasn't right, and that didn't work out at that point. And then when I moved to Tulsa, she moved to Georgia, and
Wow.
we kept up with each other through parents, really.
Yeah.
Small. It's hard not to know what's going on when you are from a small
Oh,
town. It's like the
trust me,
hub
I
of
know.
communication. Everybody makes sure everybody knows
That's Mount
everything.
Sterling, Kentucky,
That's
for
right.
sure.
So now, out of the blue one day, called her and said I was moving back to Kentucky, and she says, "That's a coincidence, so am I."
Let's get married.
Wasn't quite like that. I lived in Lexington. You lived in Tulsa. I had moved back. I lived in Lexington, and he called. Yeah, I mean, he literally called, and I just said his name to a friend. Like,
Oh,
man,
so neat.
that was a miss in life. Like, I always wondered what it would be like.
Sweet.
I mean, I have journal entries that he's seen that talk about, just me wondering what life would have been like if we had ended up together in the UK.
Yeah.
Probably not great. And so we started at the right time
Yeah.
when we did get
definitely did.
together. But
And so fast forward, because we talked about this a little bit, you had corporate America, you were in
Right.
that, but now you're here, and you talked about your background in health and fitness, and this dream is really a reality now.
Well, and
Yeah.
just as you were sharing that, I was thinking, the scriptures going through my head was Romans 8:28. How God works all things together for the good to those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. And the time that you were in Georgia and he was out in Oklahoma and had come back, and it just seemed like you said that the furthest thing apart, like it would never happen. But if God is ordaining something, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because the Lord has a way, as we've seen, of in His incredible. He's God. He's God. He's awesome. He can work anything together. And brought you guys, together. And we're gonna have to take another break. But when we come out of the break, I want to hear more about what has exploded and what's happening now.
Yeah.
In the city of Shelbyville, Kentucky, and how God is moving and using you guys in a powerful way. So, folks at home, stay tuned. We will be right back to hear more of this wonderful story. Take care. Hey, welcome back to Good News Today. And boy, the show's flying again.
I know.
And it's been
Always does.
new friends on the show, Melinda and Ben, and before we went to break, we were just talking a little bit about how the Lord just worked it out in His perfect timing to bring you back together.
It's like a tapestry He weaves
It
together.
is a tapestry.
It is.
That's the beautiful thing about God, and how now you've got this amazing things that are happening in Shelbyville.
Yeah, things are really,
Yeah, tell us about that.
really becoming interesting in downtown Shelbyville for sure.
From what I've seen, it's just kind of exploding like this kind of, I don't even know the word.
Well, small towns are trendy right now.
Yes.
I mean, it's true. I mean, we were somewhere the other day, and it was a big company, and there was even a play on the small town feel, even in big company.
Main Street. You know,
Main
it's
streets they're happening.
So real quickly, because this is a long story, so Melinda and I, when we got married, we needed to really decide if we were going to stay in Shelbyville or if we were going to move maybe even out west, maybe to the East Coast. We weren't really
the
exactly
things that
sure.
you enjoyed
Because
about
we were
that,
going
yeah.
to Louisville to do anything and
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
We were a young couple in a small town, and really at that time there just wasn't much
Yeah.
going on. And so we really needed to decide what we were going to do as a family. We didn't have any children yet, so we were able to maybe pack up and move.
And they have
if
two
we had
daughters, by the way.
$2, yes.
5 and 7, Celia
Yes.
and Annie. And as we were talking this over, a building on Main Street came available, and it really intrigued us. And we would go up in there and kind of dream on what it would be like to live downtown on Main Street on a second floor space. And at that time, the cost of the building just was not prohibitive for us to purchase the building, rehab it, and then live in it. It just didn't make sense. And so we went back to the drawing board again, and as soon as we did that, there was a big orange sign that appeared in the window, and it says "Absolute Auction."
I mean, this is just almost
Again,
a 2-year
the
process.
timing thing starts happening.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost a 2-year process where we would drive by the building, or we'd inquire about the building, and it just never worked out. And we had literally almost thrown the towel in. And then he
The big
leaps through
orange
the door one night, and he's like, "Babe, you're never gonna believe." And I was like, "Okay, did you find a unicorn?" Like, he looked the happiest I've ever seen, and it was the building. There was opportunity for us to finally get in that building.
There was
maybe.
opportunity there. And this is a story that you and your viewers may not believe, but the day of the auction, we actually went to the bank and offered them a price that we were willing to spend on the building, which we thought was more than fair. And they said, "We have a lot of interest in this building. There's a lot of people have reached out to us. We're just going to send it to auction and see how it goes." So we thought, okay. So some close friends of ours went with me that day to the auction, and a couple, actually, they were all key figures within Shelbyville, and they go with me that day, and we walk in to the auction where they were having it. And as soon as we walk in, there's about 5 or 6 men from Shelbyville that could have purchased this building 5 times
Big
the
players.
price of what I could pay for it.
That's so cool.
And this older gentleman that was with me went to this group of guys and said, "Listen, this young family wants to buy this building, rehab it, and live in it. You all have had your opportunities to make your money. I'm just asking you to stand aside and let these guys
Happen.
have
Move
it."
along.
Right?
Wow.
And they all
Gentlemanly.
said yes.
It's
Wow.
like the parting of the sea.
They
I
all
mean,
said
really
yes.
was.
There wasn't a single guy there that said, "No, I'm going after this too."
that's God.
And that day, we bought the building.
Now, who was
for-
your Moses?
Wait,
that
wait,
did that?
he
Yeah,
has-
I'm
he
just
has
like,
his-
golly.
that day, we bought the building for half of what we offered the bank
Wow.
that day.
Hallelujah.
We got
It's
it for what we sold
amazing.
our 1,100 square foot house for, and it's over 13,000
But
square
it's
feet.
that God knew that
Yeah.
we needed to buy it for that price just
we could
because
do
the amount of
anything.
money that it took and
Yes.
has taken to revamp it, to
Right.
get it back
And he
to
already
And we
seen
didn't,
the
and we
future.
didn't know
He
that.
knew.
We,
He knew.
If we had gotten it for the price that you had offered him that morning, we'd still be sitting on it,
Yeah.
not
We
able
wouldn't
to
have-
do.
We wouldn't have had enough money to rehab it, but
So for half the price you were willing to
Yeah,
pay.
because
Right.
God knew about it. Yeah.
Right.
Hallelujah.
and then that's just kind of started the ball rolling. Exactly a year to the day that we bought our first one, we bought our second one. Same kind of situation.
And that's where Harvest is.
Yeah.
Not to quite that extent, but it was at an auction.
Yeah.
And
So
both
you guys
of those
literally
buildings,
are reinventing,
Yeah.
revamping Shelby.
With the help of
I mean,
others,
apart
yeah,
from
for
there's a
sure.
lot of
Right.
other businesses doing it.
Michelle Perry, who
Yeah.
we
Michelle.
know and
Yes,
love,
Chris
has
Perry.
a
Amazing.
business
Yeah.
there.
Their
and there's
neighbors.
a lot
Perrys
of
are
that-
wonderful people.
Yeah.
God
They
bless them.
are.
bought
Yeah.
my car off her husband.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah, we
it's
love the
just
Perrys.
Yeah, they're
warmness
great.
of a small town, and there's so many neat little shops, and you
Yeah.
know,
And that's
We
only has been kind of popping up within the last
yeah,
3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
Michelle's shop is a couple years old.
Mm-hmm.
When we first bought our building, there was not much going on there at
Mm-hmm.
all. And after 6 o'clock, you could lay in the middle of Main Street and, you know, you'd be fine.
Right.
But now, you know, there's some resurgence going on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
The buildings that we purchased, they were already antique malls when we purchased
Right.
them, but before that, they had so much history
Yeah.
in these buildings.
Yeah.
Lincoln and Lerman's department store, an AMP grocery store that turned into then a department store later on. It's the
Yeah.
stories that you hear of people coming in through the doors, you know, just blows your mind of
Yes.
how much history
I mean,
is there.
people will come in and tell stories from either their grandmother worked when upstairs above Harvest when it was a seamstress place to this is where I got my members only jacket in 1980 or you know I mean like it's so neat to hear the
Above our
the
cafe
history.
is a huge gymnasium area where Shelbyville High School played their home basketball games on the second floor on Main Street.
seriously?
Oh, it's stunning. And
It's got a track
we got
around
that
the
in works
top,
now.
and it's got the
know,
original floors.
Amazing.
It's beautiful.
And literally the show's about over
We're gonna
with,
have to have him
but-
back on.
And you're all going to come back. We're going to talk some more. But it's just amazing because you all just were surrendered to the Lord, and God took care of everything. He worked out you stepped out in faith. You quit your job and you backed away from your job. But
Just real quick though, and I wanted to point out
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Harvest
go
does.
ahead.
They do a pay as you can, or pay what
Yes,
you can
yes.
day, and then a pay it forward. Those are two really neat things that they do. that you
And
guys
then a
do
lot of
there.
that stems from we know what God has given us, and so we want to
Blessing
make sure
others.
that
Well,
we
very
do that.
quickly, what's your address? So folks at home, because I only have about 20 seconds to go in the show.
For Harvest, it's
Yes.
524 Main Street, right in the heart of
524 Main
downtown
Street.
Shelbyville.
Write that down at home, folks.
And they're on
'cause it's-
Facebook.
It's on Facebook.
Twitter, Instagram.
And we'll also have some stuff on our webpage. Caroline, go ahead and give our webpage as well.
ScottFamilyMinistries.org, and they're working on a webpage, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now,
Yeah.
Again, God bless
went
you
too
guys.
fast.
It's
Yeah.
went way too
Thank you very
fast. We
much
knew it
for
would, but we're
having
going to
us.
have you back on.
Thank you
Folks
so
at home, we
much.
love you. Thanks for being on with us today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching today's program. If you have a prayer request or want more information about our ministry, feel free to visit our website at scottfamilyministries.org. Be sure to catch the next edition of Good News Today.